Hiber-Nation 10. Grizzly's Growls presents Stories from the Hiber-Nation. A handy guide for beggars, especially those of the poetic fraternity. Being sundry explorations made while afoot and penniless in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. These adventures convey and illustrate the rules of beggary for poets and some others. By Vachel Lindsay. These are the rules of the road. Keep away from cities. Keep away from the railroads. Have nothing to do with money and carry no baggage. Ask for dinner about 11:15. Ask for supper, lodging, and breakfast about 4:45. Travel alone. Be neat, deliberate, chaste, and civil. Preach the gospel of beauty. And without further parley, let us proceed to inculcate these by illustration, precept, and dogma. Vachel Lindsay, Springfield, Illinois, November 1916. Part 1. Vagrant Adventures in the South. The Would-Be Merman. Mobs are like the Gulf Stream, like the vast Atlantic. In your fragile boats you ride, conceited folk at ease. Far beneath are dancers, mermen wild and frantic, circling around the giant, glowing sea anemones. Crude, ill-smelling voters, herds to you in seeming, but to me their draggled clothes are scales of gold and red. Ah, the pink sea-horses, green sea-dragons gleaming, and knights that chase the dragons and spear them till they're dead. Wisdom waits the diver in the social ocean, rainbow shells of wonder piled into a throne. I would go exploring through the wide commotion, building under some deep cliff a pearl throne, all my own. Yesterday I dived there, grinned at all the roaring, clinging to the corals for a flash, defying death. Mermen came, rejoicing, in procession pouring, yet I lost my feeble grip and came above for breath. I would be a merman, not in desperation, a momentary diver, blue for lack of air, but with gills, deep breathing, swim amid the nation. Finny feet and hands, forsooth, sea laurels in my hair. Macon, showing my first respite with a civilized friend. The languid town of Macon, Georgia, will ever remain in my mind as my first island of respite after vagrancy. My friend C.D. Russell lent me his clothes, took me to his eating place, introduced his circle. We settled the destiny of the universe several different ways in a peripatetic discourse. After one has ventured 150 miles through Everglades and spent 24 sleepless hours riding in freight cabooses, the marrow of his bones is marsh, his hair and clothes are moss, cinders and bark, his immortal soul is engine smoke. Feeling just so, I had entered Russell's law office. He was at court. I sent word by his partner that I had gone to school with him in Ohio and that I had mailed a postal last Sunday from Florida telling him I would arrive afoot in 3 weeks. But here I was already. The word was carried with Southern precision. There's a person in the office who went to school with you in Indiana. I did not go to school in Indiana. Well, he's been walking in Mississippi and Alabama. He wrote you a postal 6 weeks ago. Well, how's he look? Oh, like the devil. He's principally pants and shirt. Well, the Cavalier knew who that was. He found me, took me to his castle, introduced civilization. Civilization is whiter than the clouds and full of clear water. One enters it with a plunge. Culture is a fuzzy fabric with which one rubs in civilization. After I had been intimate with these, I was admitted to society, a suit of the Cavalier's clothes. I looked like him then, all but head and hands. I regarded myself with awe, as a gorilla would if he found himself fading into a Gibson picture. A chair is a sturdy creature. I wonder who captured the first one, who put out its eyes and taught it to stand still. A tablecloth is ritualistic. How nobly the napkin defends the vest, while those glistening birds, the knife, the fork, and the spoon, bring one food. How did these things to eat get here among these hundreds of houses? One would think if anything to eat were brought among so many men, there would be enough hungry ones to kill each other and spoil it with blood. And why do people stop eating when they've had just a bit? Why not go on forever? We were in another room. Cavalier showed on the table what he called his Bible, the letters of Lord Chesterfield. Now, to one who has not slept in all his life, who has lived 1,000 years on freight trains, books do not count much. But how ingenious is a white iron bed, how subtle are pillows, and how overwhelming is sleep. The Falls of Tallulah, being the story of a wild bath in a mountain torrent and a conversation with the earth. The Falls of Tallulah in North Georgia. Part 1. The Call of the Water. The dust of many miles was upon me. I felt uncouth in the presence of the sun-dried stones. Here was a natural bathing place. Who could resist it? I climbed further down the canyon, holding to the bushes. The cliff along which the water rushed to the fall's foot was smooth and seemed artificially made, though it had been so hewn by the fury of the cataclysm in ages past. I took off my clothes and put my shoulders against the granite, obliged to lean back a little to conform to its angle. I was standing with my left shoulder almost touching the perilous main column of water. A little fall that hurried along by itself a bit nearer the bank flowed over me. It came with headway, though it looked so innocent I could scarcely hold up against its power. But it gave me a delight to maintain myself. The touch of the stone was balm to my walk-worn body and dust-fevered feet. Like a sacerdotal robe, the water flowed over my shoulders, and I thought myself priest of the solitude. I stepped out into the air. With unwonted energy I was able to throw off the coldness of my wet frame. The water there at the fall's foot was like 1,000 elves singing. "Joy to all creatures," cried the birds. "Glory, glory to all creatures. Glory, glory, glory to the wild falls." Part 2. The Piping of Pan. I was getting myself sunburned, stretched out on the warm, dry rocks. Down over the steep edge, somewhere near the foot of the next descent, I heard the pipes of Pan. Why should I dress and go? I made my shoes and clothes into a bundle, and threw them down the cliff and climbed over, clinging to the steep by mere twigs. I seemed to hear the piping as I approached the terrace at the fall's base. Then the sound of music blended with the stream's strange voice, and I turned to merge myself again with its waters. Against the leaning wall of the cliff I paced my shoulders. The descending current smote me, wrestling with wildwood laughter, threatening to crush me and hurl me at the base of the mountain. But just as before, my feet were well set in a notch of the cliff that went across the stream, cut there 1,000,000 years ago. It was a curious combination to discover, this stream-wide notch, and above it this wall with the water spread like a crystal robe over it. In the center of the fall a cyclops could have stood to bathe, and at the edge was the same provision in miniature for a feeble man, and it was the more curious to find this plan repeated in detail by successive cataracts of the canyon, unmistakably wrought by the slow hand of geologic ages, and to see the water of the deep central stream undisturbed in the midst of the fall, and still crystalline, and to see it slide down the steep incline and strike each knot at the foot with sudden music and appalling foam, was more wonderful than the simple telling can explain. Each sheet of crystal that came over my shoulders seemed now to pour into them rather than over them. I lifted my mouth and drank as a desert bird drinks rain. My downstretched arms and extended fingers and the spreading spray seemed one. My heart, with its exultant blood, seemed but the curve of a cataract over the cliff of my soul. Part 3. Peril, Vanity, and Adoration. Led by the pipes of Pan, I again descended. Once more that sound, almost overtaken, interwove itself with the water's cry, and I merged, body and soul, with the stream and the music. The margin of another cataract crashed upon me. In the recklessness of pleasure, one arm swung into the main current. Then the water threatened my life. To save myself, I was kneeling on one knee. I reached out blindly and found a hold at last in a slippery cleft, and later, it seemed an age. With the other hand, I was able to reach one leaf. The leaf did not break. At last, its bough was in my grasp, and I crawled, frightened, into the sun. I sat long on a warm patch of grass. But the cliffs and the water were not really my enemies. They sent a wind to give me delight. Never was the taste of the air so sweet as then. The touch of it was on my lips like fruit. There was a flattery in the tree limbs bending near my shoulders. They said, "There is brotherhood in your footfall on our roots, and the touch of your hand on our boughs." The spray of the splashed foam was wine. I was unchallenged possessor of all of nature in my body and soul could lay hold upon. It was the fair season between spring and summer, when no one came to this place. Like Selkirk, I was monarch of all I surveyed. In my folly, I seemed to feel strange powers creeping into my veins from the sod. I forgot my near disaster. I said in my heart, "O Mother Earth, majestical, the touch of your creatures has comforted me." And I feel the strength of the soul creeping up into my dust. From this patch of soft grass, power and courage come into me from your bosom, from the foundation of your continents. I feel within me the soul of iron from your iron mines, the soul of lava from your deepest fires. Part 4. The Blood Unquenchable. The satyrs in the bushes were laughing at me and daring me to try the water again. I stood on the edge of the rapids, where were many stones coming up out of the foam. I threw logs across. The rocks held them in place. I lay down between the logs in the liquid ice. I defied it heartily, and my brother the river had mercy upon me and slew me not. Amid the shout of the stream, the birds were singing joy, joy, joy to all creatures, and happiness to the whole earth. Glory, glory, glory to the wide falls. I struggled out from between the logs and threw my bundle over the cliff, and again descended, for I heard the pipes of Pan just below me there, too plainly for delay. They seemed to say, "Look, here is a more exquisite place." The sun beat down upon me. I felt myself twin brother to the sun. My body was lit with an all-conquering fever. I had walked through tropical wildernesses for many a mile, gathering sunshine, and now, in an afternoon, I was gambling my golden heat against the icy silver of the river and winning my wager, while all the leaves were laughing in the trees. And again I stood in a heaven-prepared place, and the water poured in glory from my shoulders. Why was it so dark? Was a storm coming? I was dazed as a child in a theater, beholding the crowd go out after the sudden end of a solemn play. My clothes, it appeared, were half on. I was kneeling, looking up. I counted the falls to the top of the canyon. It was night, and I wrestled with them all. My spirit was beyond all reason happy. This was a day for which I had not planned. I felt like one crowned. My blood was glowing like the blood of the crocus, the blood of the tiger lily. And so I meditated, and then at last the chill of weariness began to touch me, and in my heart I said, "O Mother Earth, for all my vanity, I know I am but a perishable flower in a cleft of the rock. I give thanks to you who have fed me the wild milk of this river, who have upheld me like a child of the gods throughout this day." Around a curve in the canyon, downstream, growing each moment sweeter, I heard the pipes of Pan. Part 5. The Gift of Tallulah. Go you, my brothers, whose hearts are in sore need of delight, and bathe in the falls of Tallulah. That experience will be for the footsore a balm, for the languid a lash, for the dry-throated pendant the very cup of nature. To those crushed by the inventions of cities, wounded by evil men, it will be a washing away of tears and of blood. Yea, it will be to them all what it was to my heart that day, the sweet, sweet blowing of the reckless pipes of Pan. Thanks for listening to Stories from the Hiber-Nation. Comment on the website at grizzly.libsyn.com. This program is sponsored by donations from people like you and is released with a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.